Now let's create a little bit of detail on the inside of the barrel of this sort of stun gun. So I'm thinking for the inside of the barrel is a kind of a repeated pattern going back, kind of encircling the barrel on the inside to get the sense of this sort of energy being generated and being able to come out, and also just to add a little bit of detail in here where there's got this big open space. And so all we have to do is build one of these and then we can duplicate them. So on the inside of the barrel, let's use our insert edge loop tool to define where we want one of these to be. So I think maybe right in here, and a thickness maybe kind of like that. So let's go ahead and select that entire loop of faces. Let's go to Edit, Mesh, and let's duplicate those faces. So coming into our outliner, you can see here is that one. We'll go ahead and drop it out of the hierarchy. We can delete the history on it. Same thing here. Kind of delete the history on that. Drop that piece out. So what we can do now is I don't want this to just be the same shape as this piece. I want it to be a little bit different. And so I'm going to take some of the resolution that we've added. I'm going to kind of take that out, okay? Now we don't need any of these edges that are here that don't really change the shape of it at all, that come from another area on the barrel. So we can hit Control Delete to get rid of those. Same thing down here. They're not doing anything at all for this piece of geometry. So we can get rid of those. As we come up here, we encounter the same sort of thing. We can get rid of those and those, not doing a thing at all. I also want to come in here and start to get rid of some of these edges down here. And I want this to be a little bit more rounded off. So I'm actually going to start to take out really almost anything that's not defining the shape. So these were all put in here to define the hardness of the edge. So let me select those, Control Delete. Here I'll delete those as well. I'll leave those two there. Coming up to the top, we'll kind of do the same thing here. So we'll delete the ones in the middle and the ones on the outside. And same thing here. If you wanted to, you could build this from scratch, and then you wouldn't have to remove this detail. So depending on how you like to work, might be a little bit faster, but this is already fitting exactly where we want it to go. So I think it works well for us to do it this way. So once we have this, we can start to add a little bit of thickness to it. So let's go ahead and turn back our isolate off. Let's go ahead and do an extrude, and we'll add a little bit of thickness here. Now you can see when we do that, they start to crisscross here. So as we add this thickness, these are coming out in different directions. We can also kind of use our Z translate, and it sort of does the same thing. And so let's go ahead and just bring this up to get our thickness the way that we want, and then we can fix it here in a second. So let's give ourselves a little bit more thickness, so 0.4. And then let's come to the front view. Let's isolate here. And then we can start to clean this up. So let's go ahead and kind of move this over. Kind of move this up a little bit. About the same thickness. And then we'll go ahead and kind of bring this up. And then we can do the same thing over here. Kind of bring this up. And it looks like we left a couple of extra edges over here instead, so let's just make it consistent. So we'll delete that, and then let's do the same thing on the other side. So I may have just had some points left over there. Okay. And so let's go back to cleaning this up. We'll select these points. Let's kind of move this one over a little bit, just so it's consistent. Same thing here, we'll kind of move this down, move this over, so it stays consistent. Check everywhere else. All right, so we get something like that. Now I want to create kind of a layered detail here as well, so let's add a couple of edge loops in here, multiple, and we'll set that to 2. And then let's select that loop, and we'll extrude that out a little bit. So, we'll kind of run into a similar issue here. Let's set this to 0.2. And then we can come in and do the same thing here. So just kind of clean this up a little. And same thing on all these interior lines here. Kind of bring this over and up. And here as well. And you can spend a little bit more time on that. But now when we kind of smooth this, that's what we get, which is kind of what I want. Although I want the outside to penetrate kind of in here. And so let me go ahead and just grab the outside of this. So it'd be basically our original polygons that we got there. And I'll just delete that. Now I'll come back in. And you can see that's what happened what happens when we sort of smooth it out a little bit. And so I can take these edges up at the top, kind of move those up and in. We can also take these points and kind of scale them out a little bit, move them up so it kind of penetrates into the top there. And we can do the same thing down here. So just grabbing these points, we can kind of move those down, maybe scale them out a little bit. And then I just want to grab these points on the sides. Grab these and these, and we'll just kind of scale those out. And grab those points. Okay, just so it's kind of penetrating in to the sides without coming through the entire barrel. Now let's use our Insert Edge Loop tool to add a little bit of hardness in certain areas. So I want to make sure to reset it. And then we can come in here and kind of harden this outer part up a little bit. We can get this part in the middle there. So that gives us something with a little bit more of kind of a rounded opening that we can work with. Now once we've got one of these, we can go ahead and delete our history, freeze our transforms if we need to. Let's center our pivot. Let's just hit Control D to duplicate, and we'll just slide a couple of these back. Control D again, slide a couple of these back. So this one we move back, let's say -3, and then this one, just to make it consistent, we can make that -6. And you can go back a little bit further if you want to. But I think that just adds a little bit more of an interesting detail on the inside of that barrel when we're looking at it sort of this angle. So the next thing that we will do is to add a little bit of vent, kind of interesting detail behind this piece on our cylinder. So that'll be pretty straightforward, and we'll take a look at how we can do that in the next lesson.